Hello everyone, it's Diamond Miner Studios, and I'm here for yet another episode of the Mario Marathon. In the first few episodes of this review series, I cover my thoughts on the NES era of the Mario franchise, and explain why the first game is a dated yet enjoyable experience, why Lost Levels is one of the worst video games I've ever played, why Mario 2 is an otherwise solid game ruined by a few annoying aspects, and why Mario 3 is my favorite game on the NES, and one of my personal top 5 Mario games. Now that those games are all done, it's time to move on to the Mario games on Nintendo's next console, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Of course, this means reviewing another one of the most popular, well-regarded entries from the history of the Mario franchise, Super Mario World. Let's get right into it.
Come on, dude, are you ever gonna...
As I said, let's get right into it. Once again, I want to start this video off with some background on development. If you're not interested in that, feel free to skip to this timestamp to get right into the review proper. Our story begins in the late 1980s, around 1987 to 1988 to be exact. The recently released PC Engine and Sega Mega Drive systems, known as the TurboGrafx-16 and Genesis respectively in North America, demonstrated that the tides were shifting from 8-bit consoles to 16-bit. 16-bit systems had faster processors and, most importantly, graphics with a lot more detail and much wider color palette. Initially, Nintendo was in no rush to create a new console, since the NES was still selling incredibly well, but quickly reconsidered when they saw their market dominance beginning to dwindle. They would begin developing a new platform called the Super Famicom. It would be their own 16-bit system to compete with the others. Hiroshi Yamauchi, the then president of the company, revealed a new console in 1987. Soon after the release of Super Mario Bros. 3, Nintendo also announced that Super Mario Bros. 4 was in the works, which created immediate excitement for the Super Famicom. Development on Super Mario Bros. 4 was once again handled by Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development, again with a team of 10 people. Takashi Tezuka took the role of director, while Miyamoto was the producer this time. Since they were working on an all-new platform, members of the team anticipated that development would be much more difficult than Super Mario Bros. 3. The team initially ported Super Mario Bros. 3 to the Super Nintendo and planned to make that a launch title for the platform. Sort of how Twilight Princess started as a GameCube game and later became a launch title for the Wii, though that's kind of a loose comparison. However, the team thought it felt like the same game, even with updated graphics, so they changed their plan to make something, as Miyamoto said, totally new. Thus, development on Super Mario Bros. 4, now called Super Mario World, officially began. This test port of Super Mario Bros. 3 has no relation to the later Super Mario All-Stars compilation. Early beta screenshots indicate that Super Mario World was quite different from the final release, initially. The world map was structured very differently from the final release version, and it included the raccoon leaf from Super Mario Bros. 3. Mario's sprites were incredibly similar to Mario 3 as well. As it progressed, it would gradually change to be more unique. The world map changed layout dramatically, and the raccoon leaf was replaced with a new cape power-up. The game also included something that had been planned since the first game, a companion for Mario to ride. This mechanic took the form of Yoshi, a dinosaur, and the game setting changed to that of an archipelago called Dinosaur Island. By the time the game was finished, a lot of elements were cut, and development was rushed towards the end. Regardless, it was released in 1990 alongside the Super Famicom in Japan. The country went absolutely wild for it, and a large-scale pandemonium caused the system to sell out all 300,000 units within its first day on the market. The situation got so intense that the Japanese government actually had to ask console manufacturers to schedule future hardware releases on weekends. It even caught the attention of the Yakuza, so the consoles had to be shipped at night to avoid theft. What can I say? I can't make this shit up if I try. Super Mario World, which still carried the subtitle Super Mario Bros. 4, became a very popular game overnight. As a result, it was quickly localized and slated for an international release as a launch title for the SNES in 1991, 1 year after Mario 3. While the game and system sold very well at launch, it wasn't enough for the SNES to immediately overtake the then dominant Sega Genesis. What resulted was an intense console war between the two systems, which Nintendo immediately ended up winning. In retrospect, Super Mario World is still considered by many to be the best Mario game ever made, but an equally sizable number of people prefer Mario 3 for one reason or another. And that's more or less the status quo these days. Super Mario World continues to be enjoyed by Mario fans young and old, especially with its multiple re-releases alongside the other games. Personally, I first played Super Mario World years ago, and it was one of the games included in that Wii Virtual Console lot I keep bringing up in these reviews for some goddamn reason. I remember enjoying myself with it, but it was too hard for my younger self once again. Seems like a running theme, like I was a stupid kid or something. Based on the restore point I have on my Wii, which is the same unit I had back then, I apparently only reached the start of Vanilla Dome before I dropped the game, so I really didn't get very far in it. Just like all the other games in this series, I wouldn't end up playing Super Mario World again until I got my hands on an actual SNES in late 2017. It took a while for me to beat the game because I would accidentally keep erasing my save file like a moron, but I ended up finishing it somewhere in the middle of 2018. It was at this point I declared it my favorite 2D Mario game and my overall third favorite in the series. Just like Mario 3, I can come back to Super Mario World any day and have a good time with it, so let's dive in and see why I think this. Let's begin with the plot, as always. Super Mario World is once again not very heavy on story, which is fine because its real focus is the gameplay. It's once again a Save Princess Peach story with the difference of a new setting. In this game, Mario, Luigi, and Peach are all on a trip to a land called Dinosaur Island, an archipelago inhabited by all sorts of prehistoric creatures. It takes place immediately after the brothers save the Mushroom Kingdom from Bowser's all-out assault in Mario 3, and the trio is on vacation as a way to relax after those events. However, while Peach is resting by the beach one day, Bowser swoops in and captures her again, bringing her to his castle located in an underwater cave. When Mario and Luigi wake up from their nap, they discover that the princess is missing. After several hours of frantically searching the area for her, they come across a large egg in the middle of a forest. It hatches, releasing a young dinosaur named Yoshi. He tells the Mario brothers that all of his friends have been imprisoned in eggs, and as it turns out, Bowser and the Koopalings are behind it. After he gives them a cape to help them out, he and the iconic brother duo set out to save the princess. They eventually reach the underwater cave called the Valley of Bowser, where they finally face the Koopa King and restore peace to Dinosaur Land. The game then says the trio plans to take a vacation, even though they're already doing that. It's probably a vacation somewhere else besides Dinosaur Land. Whoever cares, to be honest. While I don't think this story is as interesting as Mario 3, well, at least as interesting as a simple story like this can be, it's rather unique for the Mario franchise, especially when compared to the games from later on. For one, it's not even set in the Mushroom Kingdom, but rather Dinosaur Land. The addition of Yoshi and his friends to the story is also a nice touch, and provides justification for Yoshi as a companion character. So while it is just the standard Bowser has Peach, go and save her plot, I think it does enough to at least stand out a bit from the norm. Next, let's talk about the graphics. As the NES Mario games progressed, they look better with each successive game. Lost Levels was the exception since it came out after Mario 1, yet it looks worse, but Mario 2 and 3 both successively improved upon each other visually. Super Mario World continues this trend, and it uses the power of the Super Nintendo to give us the best looking graphics in the series up to this point. In fact, I'd probably call it my favorite looking 2D Mario game overall, and I'd say it looks even better than the most recent 2D entries. The most noticeable thing about the graphics is the expanded color palette. The Super Nintendo was a much more powerful system than the NES, so it naturally had a far greater range of color and allowed for a lot more simultaneous colors on screen. Super Mario World takes full advantage of this, and its color palette is a lot more wide and vibrant than all previous games. It's very pleasing to the eyes. The sprites also have a much greater variety in terms of size, and they look quite nice. This is also the first game in the series to use parallax scrolling, which is when the background scrolls slower than the foreground to simulate the parallax effect from real life. It does look flat in comparison to multiple parallax layers from Genesis games, but I still appreciate the added depth it provides. However, to be honest, I think I prefer the underlying art direction of the last game. That game had a generally more detailed art style, and with much more defined outlines on the sprites and environment tiles. Super Mario World, by contrast, seems to take a somewhat more simplified direction, which is fine, but I personally prefer when games have more detail to their graphics. I also find that Mario 3 has more varied locations. That game had a grassland, a desert, a tropical area, an island of giant enemies and objects, a cloud kingdom, a tundra, a maze of pipes, and a fiery hellscape. Super Mario World features 3 grassland areas, 2 cave systems, a twin bridges area, and a mysterious forest. I honestly think I made my point, and thus I don't need to explain any further. This more or less evens the two games' visuals out, but I prefer those of Super Mario World by a little bit because of the greater selection of colors. Next, I want to talk about the music. This game has one of the most recognizable soundtracks in the Mario franchise, right up there with Mario 1, Mario 3, and Mario 64. I personally like the music quite a bit, but I generally prefer the selection of tracks from Mario 3. Instead of the chiptune like the NES or FM synthesis of the Genesis, the SNES makes use of a sample-based music format called MIDI. Instead of the hardware generating the samples, the composer has to create these samples, which are then played on various pitches and durations in real time based off of a sequence file. Super Mario World makes use of this system for its music. The soundtrack was once again composed by Koji Kondo, who also composed all the previous Mario games. which I forgot to mention, god damn it. He found that it was much harder to make music for this game because the SNES lacked built-in samples, but still managed to create something quite memorable. I also like how Kondo uses a leitmotif, or a central melody that's remixed into multiple songs. It makes the soundtrack feel unified while still giving it some much needed variety. Even though I generally prefer MIDI over chiptune, however, I'd still say Mario 3 had somewhat more catchy instrumentation. The instruments in Mario World are a little bit, I don't want to say lacking in impact, so I guess dry would be the right word. Maybe? It's still pretty great music though, so why not have a listen to some highlights? So yeah, pretty great selection of tracks, but I'd still probably listen to certain songs from Super Mario Bros. 3 over most of the ones here. With the story and aesthetics covered, it's finally time to move on to the most important part once again, the gameplay. Super Mario World is an action-based platformer with a very simple goal: reach the end of the stage without dying, just like the previous games. I don't think I have to explain that since I'm pretty sure at least 99% of you know what a platformer is. Unlike Super Mario Bros. 3, which sought to expand the Mario formula considerably from the previous games, Super Mario World seems to be intent on polishing existing conventions established in that game. To be honest, I'm not bothered by this, because Super Mario World has a few aspects that ultimately make me prefer it to Mario 3. Yes, I did just say that. The two games are both incredible and are very close in quality, but Mario World just barely wins out for me. One of the main reasons for this has to be the controls. Super Mario Bros. 3 also handled very well, but Mario World tightened it up a little bit. Mario is a little less floaty than before, which is a change I didn't even know I wanted. It makes jumping feel even more precise, and maneuvering Mario around is a hell of a lot of fun on its own as a result. And it already was in Mario 3, so yeah. His acceleration also works very similarly. It's very gradual and thus quite manageable, and running for long enough will trigger a sort of quasi-P speed. I say quasi because there's no longer a meter denoting your speed, but it functions exactly the same. Mario once again runs like Osaka and extends his arms behind him after you run on a flat piece of ground for long enough. This feature is used as a way to reward skilled players with a burst of speed, as well as allowing the player to fly using the cape feather. I don't really know what else to say. Mario handles like an absolute dream in this game, and it's somehow even better than Mario 3's already great control. One of Super Mario World's most notable additions is, like I've been saying, Mario's companion Yoshi. You can find him in certain blocks, which spawn an egg that he hatches from when hit. You can then hop onto him and he serves as a sort of power-up. You lose him if you take a hit, but if you can prevent this, he allows you to eat enemies, kill almost any enemy by jumping on them, stand on munchers or spikes, and can use Koopa shells to gain new temporary abilities depending on the shell's color. Blue lets him fly, yellow gives him an earthquake attack, and red allows him to spit fireballs. There's also blue, yellow, and red Yoshis, which allow you to have these abilities when you eat any Koopa shell regardless of color. It is admittedly weird in retrospect how he can't flutter jump, but other than that, Yoshi is a lot of fun to use and is a great addition to the series. The level design is also a decent improvement. I'd argue that Super Mario World actually has the best level design in the 2D Mario series. Mario 3 also had great stage design, but it was sometimes fairly short-winded and didn't have any checkpoints. Super Mario World, on the other hand, not only has checkpoints in its stages, but it has much more in-depth platforming challenges with even more fun ideas. Honestly, I think my preference for this game's stage design comes down to two things: the higher amount of interesting level set pieces and the greater amount of secrets and hidden areas. As for the set pieces, they offer pretty fun challenges in each level. Some levels feature moving pipes and platforms, meaning you'll have to time your jumps carefully, while others have moving ropes and platforms to jump on with hazards you'll have to jump over, or otherwise evade. The stage types are also more varied than before. There's the auto-scrollers and fortresses, which return from Mario 3, but this is also the first game to introduce ghost house levels. These stages are always puzzle-centric, and feature some out-of-the-box thinking to get past. I quite enjoy these levels, and I completely understand why many future games would use this level archetype. The fortresses, ghost houses, and hidden switch palaces also allow you to, and get this, save the game. Yep, Super Mario World is the first game in the Mario franchise to have a save feature. I really appreciate this addition. It would be nice to save wherever you want, but at this point I'm splitting hairs. The fact that there's a save feature at all is an improvement over all the previous games, which, if they didn't have unlimited continues, were bogged down with limited continue systems. The second reason I prefer the levels of Mario World to Mario 3 is, again, the greater amount of secrets to discover. Super Mario World is structured very similar to Mario 3 in the sense that it has a world map that allows you to choose which levels you play, and unfortunately doesn't feature toad houses or extra life slot machines, but the game makes up for that with the aforementioned secrets. Super Mario World is the first game in the series to feature multiple level exits. Whereas previous games were relatively linear in their progression, sometimes requiring you to do every level to progress, Super Mario World offers a bit more freedom in what path you want to take through the game. For instance, if there's a level you don't want to do, which doesn't happen often for me, but just as an example, you can often find a secret exit that will uncover a path to progress past it. There are also multiple overworld paths to take. You can go down the path I usually do and play almost every level through each world, or you can take a shortcut through the Star World, which acts like the warp zones from previous games. The individual worlds often have various paths as well. For example, you can do every level in the Valley of Bowser, or you can use the tricky to reach secret exit in the Ghost House to skip over the 2 stages and reach the front door. Or you can even go through the fortress to get to the back door and skip the entirety of the final level, yet even get a checkpoint. This system is fun as hell to play around with, and like I said, it gives you a lot of freedom in how you approach the game. However, that's just talking about using a few of the secret exits. Throughout the whole game, there's a total of 96 exits across 72 stages, and obviously it's an optional quest to go out of your way to find all of them. This is, to my knowledge, the first Mario game to have a formal completionist quest for explorative players. I hadn't done all the exits before, but I thought I'd go after all of them for the sake of this review, and I gotta say, I have no idea why I didn't do this before. There's so many fun levels that I was missing out on. It's quite enjoyable to look for all the exits as well, and the system provides a great incentive to explore every nook and cranny of the levels. If I had to nitpick, you can't see how many exits you found, and you'll have to reset the game if you want to see your progress. But this is nothing an easy vanilla Ghost House save can't fix. I also didn't enjoy going to the secret exit in Valley of Bowser 4. You have to bring Yoshi to the end of this gauntlet of charging chucks and lava pits, since the key requires him to obtain. Problem is, doing this is a bit of a pain, since it's really easy to lose Yoshi to the boulders kicked by the chucks. Outside of this one isolated incident though, finding the secret exits is a lot of fun. As you unlock more levels, you'll eventually come across a star icon on the map. When you enter it, it will warp you to a secret world called Star Road. Here you'll have to find each level's normal and secret exits. This place, as I mentioned before, can even serve as a warp zone, because the bottom right star warps you to the front of door of Bowser's castle. The real secret of this place, though, is when you find the secret exit of the 5th level in the world. Once you do, a star warp will spawn on top of the small hill in the center of the world. Using it will take you to the special world, which consists of 8 extremely challenging levels. To be honest, I'm pretty mixed on this world as a whole. On one hand, it's cool that the devs added an extra challenging world for very skilled players. I also quite like a few of the levels here, particularly awesome and groovy. Yeah, all the levels nagging reek of the 90s. Yucky. On the other hand though, I think that some of the levels take it a bit too overboard, even for a super challenging secret world. It was really only 3 in particular, honestly. Tubular, Way Cool, and Mondo. Tubular needs no explanation. It's all over a bottomless pit, involves the finicky balloon Mario power-up, the enemy placement is annoying, yada yada yada. However, at least it's short. Mondo and Way Cool are a lot worse, as the former features a toxic combination of Water and Hammer Brothers, while the latter has irritating fuzzy patterns in the section at the end that's a massive pain in the ass up the Cape Feather. These levels are also quite lengthy, and none of the special world stages have checkpoints. I'll admit, these 3 were enough to sour me on the special world as a whole. Still, these levels are a hell of a lot better than anything in the shitty Crash Bandicoot trilogy, so that's gotta count for something. If you beat all the levels in this world, the world map changes to an autumn theme, and several sprites change. Most notably, Koopa shells become Mario heads. It's a pretty neat reward for doing it all, even if it's nothing substantial. Another thing I appreciate about Super Mario World is a large number of chances to earn extra lives. The only problem with the life system is that your life count resets to 5 when you quit and reload your save file, but everything else is just as good as it was in Mario 3. There's once again a decent number of lives within the levels themselves, but there's also certain hidden areas where you can hit rows of 3 blocks. If all 3 give you coins, then the 3rd block spits out a 1-up mushroom. But wait, there's more! The hidden switch palaces also allow you to earn lives, as they often have lines of enemies and other such things that give them to you. Additionally, if you can hit the moving ticker tapes on the end goals, then you'll earn a certain number of stars depending on how high the tape was when you hit it. If you can get 100 stars, which doesn't take that long to do, you'll be able to play a bonus game where you can match icons on moving blocks. If you can line up all 3 in a row horizontally or diagonally for at least one row, you'll be guaranteed an extra life. That's not to mention the large amount of coins throughout the game, collecting 100 of which will earn you another extra guy. Needless to say, I also end up maxing my lives out by the end of the game, a fact that I'm not at all bothered by. However, Super Mario World is not a perfect game by any means. I've already made some minor criticisms, but I still have 2 more major ones. Neither are anything game ruining, but they are things I wish were improved. First is the boss fights. Now, to be fair, they're a lot better than those of Mario 3 because you can't rush through them in 10 seconds. This game also has my favorite Bowser battle in the 2D series, since it isn't a fight you can plow through with extreme ease, though it's still not too hard. The Koopalings and the fortress boss Reznor, however, incredibly easy and simple. You'd be hard pressed to die against any of these guys, and as a result, these fights don't add very much beyond occasionally spicing things up, for about a minute before you can easily rip them a new one. Well, my biggest criticism of Super Mario World as a whole, then, is probably the power-up and health system. For some reason I can't fathom, Mario World changes the hit points from the improved Mario 3 system and reverts it back to Mario 1 logic. Getting hit with a second level power-up makes you shrink all the way back to small Mario. I really don't know why they did this, to be honest. The Japanese version apparently doesn't do this, and so I don't get why the international release couldn't keep the Mario 3 system as well. Thankfully, there is something that serves as a sort of band-aid solution, the item reserve system. If you collect a power-up as Big Mario, that item will be stored in reserve at the top of the screen. If you get hit, this power-up will then drop, giving you a chance to recover a hit point. If it wasn't for this system, I might just prefer Mario 3 to this game, even with the improvements Mario World makes. I would still enjoy Mario World quite a bit, but there may have been a chance of my preference leading in favor of its predecessor. However, the item reserve really does push it over the edge for me. You can also use select to manually make the power-up come down, which can be pretty useful in certain situations. I will admit, I do miss the Mario 3 inventory system, and a band-aid solution is still just that, a band-aid, but I can get over it for the sake of enjoying the game. That's all I really have to say about Super Mario World. All in all, it's my favorite 2D Mario game, favorite Super Nintendo game, and favorite 2D side-scroller in general. I love pretty much everything about it. The story is interesting for a Mario game, the graphics are the best of any 2D Mario game, the music is pretty good, the controls are just as smooth as Mario 3 and are even a bit more precise, the level design is the best in the 2D series, the exits are a great addition, and finding all the secret exits is a great time, it's the first Mario game to have a save feature, Yoshi was a fantastic addition, etc, etc. Sure, it's not perfect, as the special world is a pain in the butt at times, the bosses are still way too easy, reloading a save file resets your life count, and the hit point system is inexplicably reverted back to the archaic Mario 1 system, but I don't care. These flaws barely get in the way of my enjoyment of this platforming masterpiece, and it's one of those games that I can come back to any day and never experience fatigue or get sick of. And that does it for this review. Damn, was it finally great being able to talk about this awesome game in detail and explain why I love it so much. Anyways, it's time to move on. You might be thinking that the next review will finally cover the Italian plumber's jump to a new dimension, but we're not quite there yet. I still have a few more games to cover from the 2D era, so join me next time when I take a look at Super Mario All-Stars, also for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a compilation of the 4 previous games, fully remastered, and there's even a re-release of that game that includes a version of Mario World. In any event, this has been Diamond Miner Studios, and I'll see you in the next review. Have a good day. The Koopalings... Fuck! Oh my god, my throat's so dry. Ugh!